Minho Kang walked through the massive corridor of the Galactic Council station, his footsteps echoing against the metallic walls. He had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now, and still, the sight of dozens of alien species moving past him made his heart race with wonder. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated in containment fields or skittered on 6 limbs. The galaxy was vast and beautiful, but it was also cruel. Today's council meeting had left a bitter taste in his mouth. The Velkari ambassador had spent 20 minutes explaining why humanity's request for expanded trade routes was ridiculous. The insectoid creature had clicked its mandibles in what Minho had learned was their version of laughter. Other species in the chamber had remained silent, unwilling to support the newest members of the galactic community. Jiwon Park was waiting for him outside the council chamber. She was his military attaché, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had been a colonel in Earth's Space Defense Force before taking this diplomatic posting. "That bad?" she asked as Minho approached. "Worse," Minho said quietly. "They rejected everything. The Velkari made sure of it." They walked together toward the human section of the station. It was small compared to the sprawling quarters of older civilizations. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 15 years ago, after making first contact with a Nomathi explorer ship near Mars. In galactic terms, humans were infants, weak, primitive, barely worth noticing. "How much longer do we have to take their insults?" Jiwon asked. Her hand was clenched into a fist. Minho sighed. "As long as it takes." "Earth has 3 colony systems, Jiwon. The Velkari have 300. We have 14 warships. They have thousands. If we make them angry, they could wipe us out in a week." "They already think they can wipe us out," Jiwon muttered. Minho knew she was right. The Velkari Empire dominated this sector of space. They had conquered dozens of species over the past 1,000 years. Some they had enslaved. Others they had simply eliminated. The only reason humanity still existed was because Earth was far from Velkari territory, and the Council had rules about unprovoked extermination of member species, but rules only mattered if someone enforced them. Back in his quarters, Minho found Hyun Lee waiting for him. The chief science advisor was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He carried a data pad that he immediately handed to Minho. "What is this?" Minho asked. "Updated intelligence on our actual capabilities," Hyun said softly. "Eyes only." Minho read through the data, his expression carefully neutral. For the past 15 years, while humanity played the role of weak newcomers, Earth had been busy. The research stations orbiting Jupiter and Saturn were not research stations at all. They were shipyards, massive construction facilities hidden behind carefully maintained lies. "How many ships?" Minho asked. 600, as of last month, Hyun replied. "Full combat specifications. Weapons the Velkari have never seen. And if the Council knew about this, they would consider it a violation of the treaties we signed. We declared our entire military capability when we joined." "We lied." Minho set down the datapad. "We had to. If they knew what we were building, they would have forced us to dismantle everything. They would have kept us weak forever." "I know," Hyun said, "but the charade can't last forever. Eventually, someone will discover the truth. Then we make sure the charade lasts long enough," Minho said firmly. "Every year we delay is another year to build more ships, train more crews, develop better weapons. Peace is worth the humiliation." Hyun left, and Minho sat alone in his quarters. He thought about Earth, about the 3 billion people living on humanity's homeworld. He thought about the colonies on New Jeju, New Busan, and Evergreen Station. All of them were vulnerable. All of them depended on the Council's protection and humanity's ability to avoid making enemies. The next day, everything changed. Minho was in a diplomatic reception when the message arrived. The Velkari Empire had issued a formal claim on the New Jeju system. They stated that ancient Velkari surveys had established their ancestral rights to the system over 2,000 years ago. The human colony had 30 days to evacuate completely. Minho immediately requested an emergency council session. He stood before the assembled species and presented humanity's case. New Jeju had been uninhabited, when human colonists arrived 12 years ago. They had spent years terraforming the planet, building cities, creating a home for 2.3 million people. The colony was recognized under galactic law. The Velkari ambassador clicked his mandibles. Laws change. The system belongs to the Velkari Empire. The humans may leave peacefully, or they may be removed. We care not which. Minho turned to the council mediators, the energy beings called Nomathi. You have laws against this. You must intervene. The Nomathi representative pulsed with soft light. The claim has historical basis. The Velkari surveys predate human arrival by millennia. We cannot interfere in legitimate territorial disputes. This is not a dispute, Minho said, his voice rising. This is theft. You are letting them steal an entire world from us. Mind your tone, human, the Velkari ambassador hissed. You are new here. You do not make demands of your betters. Minho looked around the chamber. 100 species watched him. None spoke in support. None offered help. They all knew what was happening. They all chose to do nothing. That night, Minho sent an encrypted message to Earth. He used the diplomatic codes that only the highest levels of government could access. His message was simple. Council refuses to intervene in New Jeju situation. We are on our own. Advise immediate evacuation of colony. Velkari will not negotiate. The response came from Earth's president within an hour. Proceed with evacuation. Maintain diplomatic protocols. Do not provoke conflict. We will not abandon our people. We mend of in the rays. Jiwan found him staring out the window at the stars. I heard about New Jeju, she said quietly. We are going to lose our largest colony, Minho said. 2.3 million people have to leave their homes because the council is too afraid to stand up to the Velkari. Maybe it is time we stopped being afraid, Jiwan suggested. We are not strong enough yet. Then when? How many colonies do we lose before we stop pretending to be weak? Minho had no answer. He had spent 3 years swallowing insults, accepting humiliation, playing the role of the grateful newcomer. He had done it because he believed in peace. He had done it because war with the Velkari would mean the end of humanity. But now, watching the stars, he wondered if there were some things worse than war. Some humiliations too great to bear. Some prices too high to pay for peace. He did not know that in 30 days, the galaxy would learn the answer to those questions. He did not know that the mass humanity war was about to crack. He did not know that New Jeju would burn, and in the ashes of that world, a different humanity would be born. For now, he simply stood at the window and watched the stars, and wondered how many of his people would die before this was over. Governor Salmon Choi stood on the observation deck of New Jeju's Capitol building and watched the evacuation ships rising into the sky. One after another, they lifted off from the spaceport, carrying thousands of colonists away from the world they had built. Her world, their home. She had been governor for 6 years. She had watched this colony grow from a collection of habitat domes into a thriving civilization. The colonists had worked so hard. They had turned a barren rock into a garden. They had built schools and hospitals and parks. Children had been born here. People had fallen in love here. They had made New Jeju into something beautiful. Now they were abandoning it all because the Velkari Empire wanted it. Daehyun Kim entered the observation deck. He was the colony's defense coordinator, in charge of the small fleet of ships that protected New Jeju. 14 ships total, patrol craft and light frigates, designed to handle pirates and asteroid threats, not designed to fight a Velkari war fleet. How is the evacuation going? Salmon asked. Ahead of schedule, Daehyun reported. We have moved 1.9 million people off planet. Another 400,000 are boarding ships now. We should have everyone off in 3 more days. 1.9. We still have 27 days before the Velkari deadline. I know. But I do not trust them to wait. Salmon nodded. She did not trust them either. The Velkari had a reputation for cruelty. They did not just conquer worlds. They made examples of anyone who resisted. Even people who did not resist. Down in the streets below, Colonists moved in long lines toward the transport stations. They carried what they could. A lifetime of belongings reduced to a single bag. Salmon saw a mother carrying a small child, the girl clutching a stuffed animal. She saw an elderly man being helped by younger people, his face wet with tears. She saw families holding hands, trying to stay together in the chaos. "What about you, Governor?" Daehyun asked. "When do you leave?" "I leave last," Salmon said simply. "I will not abandon anyone." Over the next days, the evacuation continued. The transport ships were packed beyond capacity. People sat in cargo holds and corridors. They did not complain. They knew they were lucky to escape at all. The Velkari could have simply attacked without warning. Minho Kang called from the council station every day. He was still trying to negotiate, still begging the council to intervene. Salmon could hear the desperation in his voice. She knew he was doing everything he could. It just was not enough. "The council will not help us," she told him during their last conversation. "We both know it. Stop wasting your time, and make sure Earth takes care of our people when they arrive." "I have not given up, Salmon." "Maybe you should. Maybe we all should have given up on the council a long time ago." On the 28th day, the Velkari fleet arrived early. Daehyun was in the Defense Command Center when the sensors detected them. 200 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Velkari battlecruisers, destroyers, carriers, more firepower than humanity possessed in its entire official fleet. He immediately contacted Salmon. "The Velkari are here, 2 days early. Can we finish the evacuation? If they give us time. We still have 340,000 people on the surface. They did not give them time." The Velkari fleet moved into attack formation. Their commander, War Prime Threxatal, sent a transmission to New Jeju. His translated words were cold and amused. The deadline was merely a courtesy. "We have decided we no longer wish to extend it. Your presence in our territory ends now." 9. Daehyun ordered all evacuation ships to launch immediately. 17 transports were still being loaded. They lifted off half full, emergency alarms blaring. The spaceport dissolved into panic as people ran for the ships, desperate to escape. Salmon activated the colony-wide emergency broadcast. "This is the governor. All remaining evacuation ships are launching now. If you can reach the spaceport, run. If you cannot, seek shelter in the underground levels." "I am sorry. I am so sorry." The evacuation ships climbed toward orbit. They were unarmed civilian vessels, loaded with families and children and elderly people who had been too sick to move earlier. They were not a threat to anyone. War Prime Thrextal gave the order to fire anyway. The Velkari warships opened up with their main weapons. Energy beams crossed the empty space in seconds. The first transport exploded in a ball of fire, vaporizing 20,000 people in an instant. The second ship was cut in half, its hull splitting open and spilling bodies into the void. The third, fourth, fifth ships died just as quickly. Daehyun watched on his screens as the massacre unfolded. He was screaming orders, but there was nothing his defense fleet could do. They were too far away. They could not reach the transports in time. He gave the only order he could. "All defense ships, engage the enemy. Make them pay for every life." The 14 human ships charged toward the Velkari fleet. They fired missiles and railguns. Everything they had. One Velkari destroyer took damage to its shields. Then the Velkari returned fire and erased the human defense fleet from existence. Daehyun died at his post when a Velkari beam weapon pierced the defense station and turned it into superheated gas. On the planet's surface, Salmon watched the orbital bombardment begin. The Velkari were not satisfied with destroying the evacuation ships. They wanted to erase the colony itself. Fusion beams rained down from orbit, each one carrying enough energy to crack mountains. The capital city's shields held for exactly 14 seconds. Then they collapsed and the city began to burn. Buildings that had stood for 12 years were reduced to rubble in moments. The parks where children played became craters. The schools became ash. Salmon stood in her office and recorded a final message. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "This is Governor Salmon Choi, of New Jeju. To my family on Earth, I love you. I am sorry I will not see you again. To the people of Earth, remember what happened here. Remember that we begged for help and no one came. Remember that we followed the Council's laws and they let us die anyway. Remember, and do not forget." The ceiling above her exploded inward. The last thing she saw was fire. In orbit, 3 evacuation ships somehow escaped the slaughter. Their pilots pushed the engines beyond safety limits, jumping to faster-than-light speed while still inside the system's gravity well. It was dangerous and desperate, but it worked. They carried 60,000 survivors away from New Jeju. Behind them, the Valkyrie fleet continued the bombardment for 3 more hours. They wanted to be thorough. When they were finished, New Jeju's surface was a wasteland of glass and fire. The oceans had boiled away. The atmosphere was toxic. Nothing lived. 2.1 million human beings were dead. The galaxy watched through the Council's monitoring feeds. Some species expressed quiet shock. Most said nothing. The Valkyrie transmitted a message to all Council members. This is what happens to those who claim what belongs to the Valkyrie Empire. Let it be a lesson. On the Council station, Minho Kang received the final casualty reports. He sat alone in his quarters, the datapad in his trembling hands. 2.1 million. More than 1 million of them had been children. Families, teachers and doctors and artists and farmers, people who had just wanted to build a new life among the stars. The Council had let them die. The galaxy had watched and done nothing. For 3 years, Minho had been a perfect diplomat. Patient. Polite. Willing to accept humiliation for the sake of peace. He had believed that reason and law would protect humanity. He had been wrong. He opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The encryption was the highest level, accessible only to the President and the Defense Council. When the connection was established, Minho spoke 2 words that would change everything. Protocol hammer. On Earth, in the secret facilities hidden throughout the solar system, alarms began to sound. The charade was over. The mask was coming off. Humanity had tried peace, and peace had given them nothing but mass graves. Now they would try something else. The Galactic Council received Earth's message exactly 12 hours after the New Jeju massacre. It was not a plea for help. It was not a request for justice. It was an ultimatum delivered in cold, precise language. The Valkyrie Empire has 72 hours to surrender War Prime Thrextel and his entire command staff for trial. They will face judgment for crimes against humanity. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Failure to comply will result in military action. Earth out. The council chamber erupted in confusion. The Valkyrie ambassador clicked his mandibles in amusement. The humans make demands. They have lost their minds along with their colony. But the Nomathi mediators were not amused. They tried to contact Earth for clarification. Every communication channel was dead. Earth's embassy on the council station had been evacuated overnight. Every human diplomat, every trade representative, every cultural liaison had vanished. The entire human section of the station stood empty. Minho Kang was already halfway back to Earth. His ship traveled in complete communication silence. He had spent 3 years smiling and bowing and accepting insults. Those 3 years were over. He would return to the council, but not as a beggar. Never again as a beggar. On the Valkyrie homeworld, the War Council met to discuss the human ultimatum. They laughed. The Valkyrie Empire controlled 300 systems and fielded thousands of warships. Humanity had 3 small colonies and officially claimed only 14 defense vessels. The idea that humans could threaten the Valkyrie was absurd. War Prime Thrextel addressed the council with confidence. I will take the Grand Armada to Earth and finish what we started at New Jeju. The humans will learn humility, or they will learn extinction. Either outcome is acceptable. The Valkyrie mobilized 2,000 warships. It was the largest fleet they had assembled in centuries. They plotted a course for Earth, traveling at maximum speed. The journey would take 8 days. They would never complete it. In the Kuiper Belt at the edge of Earth's solar system, Admiral Taeyong Song stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution and watched his fleet come to life. For 15 years, this fleet had waited in the dark and cold, hidden from the galaxy's eyes. Hundreds of ships disguised as research stations and mining facilities, now revealing their true purpose. Taeyong was a gray-haired man who had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. He had trained every crew, overseen every weapons test, planned every tactical scenario. He had never wanted this war, but now that it was here, he would make sure humanity won it. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. Captain Ji-Hoon Na was young but brilliant, handsome with sharp features and sharper instincts. He had been born the year after first contact, part of the generation that grew up knowing aliens existed. He had joined the military specifically to protect humanity from them. "How many ships do we have operational?" Taeyong asked. 642, sir. Full combat readiness. Crews are experienced from the training exercises. Training exercises was a polite term for what they had been doing. Secret war games in the outer system, using captured alien technology to test their weapons. Humanity had been preparing for this war since the moment they joined the Galactic Council. Jiwon Park, now promoted to fleet coordinator, contacted Taeyong from Earth's military command center. She looked exhausted but determined. "Admiral, the President has authorized full deployment. You have complete operational freedom. Bring our people home." "Understood. What about the survivors from New Jeju?" "They arrived at Mars Station this morning. 60,000 people. They are traumatized but safe. Many have requested to join the military. We will give them that chance," Taeyong said. "After we finish this." Across Earth's solar system, hidden bases activated. The research station, orbiting Jupiter, opened its hull to reveal massive shipyards. The ice mining operation on Europa transformed into a weapons production facility. The atmospheric study platform, near Saturn, deployed thousands of autonomous combat drones. Hyun Lee, the chief science advisor, coordinated the technical aspects of the mobilization from a facility deep beneath Earth's surface. He had spent 15 years lying to the galaxy about humanity's capabilities. Every trade mission had been an intelligence operation. Every cultural exchange had involved espionage. Every alien technology humanity could access had been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. "The quantum displacement mines are ready," he reported to the Defense Council. "The railgun systems are fully charged. The AI tactical networks are online. We are as ready as we will ever be." "What about the Velkari shields?" the defense minister asked. "Their shield technology is based on magnetic field manipulation. We have developed penetrator rounds that can bypass the fields by phasing through them. The Velkari have never encountered this technology because we invented it last year." The galaxy watched in confusion as humanity's true military revealed itself. Species that had dismissed humans as weak and primitive now saw hundreds of warships emerging from hiding. The ships were sleek and deadly, combining alien design principles with human innovation. Yebin Han, the strategic operations officer, sat in the tactical command center and watched the holographic display of both fleets. The Velkari Armada was a red mass moving toward Earth. The human hammer fleet was a blue formation moving to intercept. The numbers favored the Velkari 3-1. But numbers did not tell the whole story. "Calculate the intercept point," she ordered. "Veil Nebula, ma'am. In 6 days." "Perfect. Dense gas clouds, sensor interference. Exactly where we want them." She opened a channel to all human military forces. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "This is strategic command. In 6 days, we will engage the Velkari Grand Armada at the Veil Nebula. They are coming to Earth expecting an easy victory. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. They are wrong about everything." She paused, thinking about New Jeju. Thinking about 2.1 million dead. Thinking about children who would never grow up, and families who would never be whole again. "The Velkari killed our people while they ran away. They burned our cities while we begged for mercy. They showed us who they really are. Now we show them who we really are. Every ship, every weapon, every person in this fleet has one mission: Make the Velkari Empire pay for what they have done. No mercy, no quarter, no forgiveness. Across the fleet, human crews prepared for battle. Engineers checked weapons systems. Pilots ran simulations. Marines loaded ammunition. Everyone knew what was at stake. This was not just a military engagement. This was about whether humanity would survive in a hostile galaxy. On the 3 colony worlds that remained, defense platforms activated. Missile batteries rose from underground silos. Shield generators powered up. If the Velkari somehow got past the Hammer fleet, the colonies would sell themselves dearly. But Taeyong did not plan to let the Velkari get past him. The galaxy received another message from Earth. This one was broadcast on all frequencies. Sent to every species, every world, every station. To the members of the Galactic Council. You stood by while our people were slaughtered. You watched while our cities burned. You did nothing while we begged for help. Remember this moment. Remember that you created this. When you see what happens next, remember that you could have stopped it. You chose not to. Now you will witness what humanity becomes when we stop pretending to be weak. The message ended. The silence that followed was absolute. The Velkari fleet continued toward Earth, confident and unaware. They had no idea what was waiting for them. They had spent 1,000 years conquering weaker species. They thought humans were just another weak species. In 2 days, they would learn the truth. In 2 days, the Battle of the Veil Nebula would begin. In 2 days, the galaxy would see humanity's true face for the first time. Admiral Taeyong Song stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched the countdown timer. Around him, 600 warships prepared for battle. Behind him, Earth waited to see if its gamble would pay off. Ahead of him, the Velkari Grand Armada approached its doom. He thought about Somin Choi, dying in her office while her city burned. He thought about Dae-hyun Kim, charging into a hopeless battle to save civilians. He thought about 2.1 million people who had done nothing wrong except exist in a place the Velkari wanted. All ships, he said quietly. Prepare to jump to the Veil Nebula. It is time to drop the mask. The Veil Nebula was a region of space filled with dense gas clouds and cosmic dust. Sensors worked poorly here. Communications were difficult. It was a place most fleets avoided because navigating through it was dangerous. Admiral Taeyong Song had chosen it for exactly those reasons. The human Hammer fleet arrived first, positioning themselves in a defensive formation among the gas clouds. 642 ships arranged in a pattern that looked random but was carefully calculated. The Velkari would see scattered targets and think the humans were disorganized. They would be wrong. War Prime Thrextal brought his Grand Armada out of faster-than-light travel exactly where human intelligence predicted. 2,000 Velkari warships emerged from the jump, their hulls gleaming with weapons and shields. The fleet was massive, overwhelming, designed to intimidate. Thrextal opened a communication channel. His translated voice dripped with contempt. Pitiful humans. You have perhaps 600 ships. We have 2,000. You should have accepted your place as prey. Now you will die with your homeworld. Captain Ji-hoon Na stood beside Admiral Song on the Retribution's bridge. He looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. The numbers were brutal. 3-to-1 odds. Most military doctrines said you needed at least equal numbers to have a chance of victory. Admiral, Ji-hoon said quietly. They outnumber us significantly. They do. Taeyong agreed. But they have never fought humans before. They think they know what we can do. They are about to learn they know nothing. He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships? This is Admiral Song. The Velkari murdered 2.1 million of our people. They burned our colony. They laughed while they did it. Now we teach them that laughter has a price. Engage weapons, fire at will. The human fleet fired first. Railguns launched projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The metal slugs had been designed specifically to penetrate Velkari shields. They phased through the magnetic fields as if they did not exist, then struck the hull beneath with devastating force. 12 Velkari capital ships were crippled in the first 3 seconds of the battle. Thrextal watched in shock as his lead ships were torn apart. The damage readouts made no sense. Human weapons should not be able to pierce Valkyrie shields, yet the rounds were going through as if the shields were not there. "Return fire," he screamed. "All ships, engage the human fleet." The Valkyrie armada opened up with energy weapons and missiles. Their firepower was enormous, enough to glass a planet. But the human ships were moving in patterns the Valkyrie had never seen. They used the gas clouds for cover, appearing and disappearing from sensors. Their formation seemed chaotic, but was actually precisely coordinated. The battle exploded across the nebula. Energy beams cut through the cosmic dust, creating brilliant flashes of light. Missiles streaked between ships, leaving trails of fire. Explosions bloomed in the darkness as ships on both sides took damage. But the humans had planned for this fight. Every tactic, every weapon, every formation had been designed specifically to kill Valkyrie ships. Yeben Han coordinated the battle from the tactical command center, her voice calm as she directed the fleet. Group Alpha, target the heavy cruisers on the left flank. Group Beta, deploy quantum mines in Sector 7. Group Gamma, draw their destroyers into the ambush zone. The quantum mines were a human invention. They could be displaced directly inside an enemy ship, bypassing shields entirely. When they detonated, they tore the Valkyrie vessels apart from the inside. 15 more Valkyrie ships died in the second minute of the battle. Captain Ji-hoon commanded the Retribution with cold precision. His ship was the tip of the spear, leading the main assault. The Retribution's weapons were the most advanced in the human fleet. Each shot was carefully aimed, each target selected for maximum impact. "Target that carrier," Ji-hoon ordered. "Full spread, railguns, and missiles." The Retribution fired. 6 railgun slugs hit the Valkyrie carrier within seconds of each other. The carrier's shields flickered and died. The missiles that followed punched through the unprotected hull and detonated inside the hangar bays. The carrier broke apart, spilling hundreds of smaller Valkyrie fighters into space. The fighters tried to form up, but human AI combat drones were already moving to engage. Thousands of small, fast-moving drones swarmed the Valkyrie fighters. Each drone was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could react faster than any organic pilot. The Valkyrie fighters were destroyed before they could even fire their weapons. War Prime Threxal watched his fleet dying. This was not how the battle was supposed to go. The humans should have been overwhelmed by now. Instead, they were winning. His ships were being destroyed faster than they could adapt to human tactics. "Pull back to defensive formation," he ordered. "We need to regroup." But the humans had planned for that too. The moment the Valkyrie fleet tried to retreat, they found themselves trapped. The human ships had been slowly surrounding them, using the gas clouds to hide their movements. Now they activated faster-than-light interdiction fields. The Valkyrie ships could not escape. They were stuck in normal space, forced to fight. "No retreat," Admiral Song said quietly, watching the battle unfold. "No escape. They wanted to exterminate us. Now they face extermination themselves." The battle raged for 6 hours. It was brutal and merciless. The human fleet fought with a fury born of grief and rage. Every shot was for New Jeju. Every kill was for the 2.1 million dead. The Valkyrie tried everything. They attempted to concentrate their firepower on individual human ships, but the human formation was too flexible. They tried to ram the human vessels, but the humans were faster and more maneuverable. They tried to surrender, but the humans ignored every surrender request. Ji-hoon received one such request from a Valkyrie destroyer. The enemy captain was begging for mercy, saying his crew had not been at New Jeju, that they should not be punished for what others had done. Ji-hoon's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "Did our children have the chance to surrender? Did our elderly? Did our sick? You are Valkyrie. That is enough." The destroyer was destroyed. Human casualties were mounting. 94 ships had been destroyed or crippled. Thousands of human lives lost. But the Valkyrie were being annihilated. Their 2,000-ship armada was being torn apart. Yeben watched the tactical display update in real time. The red markers representing Valkyrie ships were disappearing one by one. Admiral, enemy fleet strength is down to 15%. They are broken. Good, Taeyong said. Continue the assault. No survivors on any ship that resists. Any ship that powers down completely and surrenders will be boarded, and the crew taken prisoner. 153 Valkyrie ships surrendered by powering down all weapons and shields. The rest fought to the end, and were destroyed. When the battle finally ended, the Veil Nebula was filled with wreckage and debris. Nearly 2,000 Valkyrie ships had been eliminated. War Prime Threx's flagship had been crippled, but not destroyed. Ji-hoon led a boarding party onto the enemy vessel personally. They moved through the damaged corridors, encountering scattered resistance that was quickly eliminated. They found Threxidal in the command center, trying to destroy the ship's data cores. He was a large insectoid creature, his carapace marked with battle scars from 100 campaigns. He had conquered worlds and enslaved species. He had never known defeat. "You cannot do this," he clicked, his mandibles trembling. "I am a War Prime of the Valkyrie Empire. You must follow the rules of war." Ji-hoon looked at the creature with cold eyes. "You fired on unarmed civilian transports. You burned a planet full of innocent people. You have no right to speak of rules." Thrextal and his surviving command staff were shackled and taken to human ships. As he was led away, the War Prime saw something in the humans' faces that terrified him more than death. It was not anger. It was not even hatred. It was absolute conviction. These humans believed completely in what they were doing, and nothing would stop them. Admiral Song broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every station received it simultaneously. "This is Admiral Taeyong Song of Earth's Hammer Fleet. The Valkyrie Grand Armada has been destroyed. Of 2,000 ships, 153 have surrendered. The rest are debris. War Prime Threxidal is in our custody and will face trial for his crimes." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "The Valkyrie Empire has 48 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to occupation. Your homeworld will be occupied. Your fleet will be dismantled. Your government will be dissolved. If you refuse, we will destroy your homeworld and every colony you possess. We do not bluff. We do not forgive. We learned this from you." The transmission ended. The galaxy fell silent. The species that had ignored humanity's pleas now watched in horror as humans revealed their true nature. The weak newcomers were gone. In their place stood something terrifying. The Valkyrie Empire surrendered in 36 hours. They had no choice. Their Grand Armada was destroyed. Their War Prime was a prisoner. Their military infrastructure was helpless against the human fleet that now approached their territory. The surrender was unconditional. Every Valkyrie warship was ordered to power down and wait for human inspection teams. Every military base was to be abandoned. Every weapons platform was to be deactivated. The Valkyrie government dissolved itself and waited for human occupation forces to arrive. It was the fastest collapse of a major galactic power in recorded history. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. All of them frightened and confused. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically, and no one knew what would happen next. Minho Kang entered the council chamber. But he was a different person than the diplomat who had left weeks ago. He wore a military uniform now. Not diplomatic robes. Armed human guards followed him, their weapons clearly visible. The other species drew back as he passed, uncertain and afraid. The Nomathi mediator pulsed with agitated light. "Ambassador Kang, the Council demands an explanation. Your actions violate galactic law. You cannot simply destroy an empire and occupy their territory." Minho walked to the center of the chamber. He did not bow. He did not ask permission to speak. He simply activated a holographic projector and began playing footage. The council watched every session where humanity had begged for help. They watched Minho pleading for intervention in the New Jeju situation. They watched species after species refuse to act. They watched the Valkyrie ambassador mock humanity's weakness. Then the footage switched to New Jeju. The council watched the massacre unfold. They saw unarmed evacuation ships being destroyed. They saw children dying in the vacuum of space. They saw a planet being burned to ash while 2.1 million people died screaming. The chamber was silent when the footage ended. "You created this," Minho said quietly. His voice was not angry. It was simply stating a fact. Every human death is on your hands as much as the Velkari's. You had laws against what they did. You refused to enforce them. You taught us that strength is the only thing the galaxy respects. We learned the lesson well. The Velkari ambassador who had replaced Thrextal tried to speak. The humans are becoming the very thing they claim to hate. They are conquerors now. Occupiers. No better than us. Minho turned to look at the Velkari. We are occupying your territory to ensure you never commit genocide again. We are dismantling your military so you cannot threaten anyone. We are holding your war prime accountable for his crimes. If that makes us conquerors, then yes, we are conquerors. But we did not start this war. You did. The trial of War Prime Threxidal was broadcast across the entire galaxy. It was held on Mars, where the survivors of New Jeju could witness justice being done. The trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Thrextal had ordered the attack on civilian ships. He had ordered the bombardment of a populated planet. He had laughed about it afterward. The verdict was guilty on all counts. The sentence was death. 60,000 New Jeju survivors watched as Threxidal was executed. Some of them cried. Some of them cheered. Most just stood in silence, finding no satisfaction in revenge, but needing to see it anyway. Among them was a young girl named Mina, who had lost her parents in the massacre. She held a stuffed animal that she had carried off the planet. She watched the execution and did not feel better. Her parents were still dead, but at least the creature who killed them was dead too. Admiral Jiwon Park oversaw the occupation of Velkari territory. She brought an army but also engineers and medical personnel. The occupation was harsh, but fair. Velkari civilians were not harmed. Food and medical supplies were provided. But the military was completely dismantled. Every Velkari warship was either scrapped or converted to civilian use. Every weapons factory was shut down. Every military academy was closed. The Velkari would be allowed to have a small defense force for law enforcement, nothing more. Some Velkari resisted. Those who did were dealt with swiftly and efficiently. Most Velkari simply accepted the occupation. They had built their empire on conquest and cruelty. Now they were experiencing what they had inflicted on others. Jiwon walked through the streets of the Velkari homeworld, surrounded by her security detail. Velkari civilians watched her pass with fearful eyes. Children hid behind their parents. Elderly Velkari clicked their mandibles in distress. She felt no sympathy for them. These people had cheered when New Jeju burned. These people had celebrated conquest and empire. Now they were learning what defeat felt like. But she also ensured they were treated humanely. Food distribution was fair. Medical care was provided. Reconstruction efforts began immediately. Humanity would not become the monsters the Velkari had been. Other species came forward, asking to join humanity's sphere of influence. Some were species the Velkari had oppressed for centuries. Others were simply afraid and wanted the protection of humanity's military. Earth's government accepted some alliances and rejected others, carefully choosing who to trust. The council elder Vixala of the Nomathi approached Hyun Lee privately during a diplomatic reception, the energy being pulsed with remorse. "We failed you. We should have intervened. We should have protected New Jeju. I am sorry." Hyun looked at the alien with cold eyes. "Your regret means nothing to the dead, elder. 2.1 million people died. Because you were afraid to act. Because you valued your comfort more than their lives. What can we do to make amends? Nothing. There is nothing you can do. The people you let die are gone forever. But you can remember this moment. You can remember what happens when good people do nothing while evil acts freely." The galaxy adjusted to the new reality. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. They were a major military power, one that had proven willing to use overwhelming force when provoked. Other species began treating human diplomats with respect, though it was respect born of fear rather than admiration. Trade agreements that had been rejected for years were suddenly approved. Territorial disputes that had been ignored were suddenly resolved in humanity's favor. The council that had dismissed human concerns now listened carefully to every word Earth's representatives spoke, but humanity had paid a terrible price for this respect. New Jeju remained a dead world, a monument to the 2.1 million who had died there. Plans to resettle it were abandoned. Instead, it was declared a memorial world, never to be disturbed. Minho stood before the remembrance wall on Earth, where every name of every person who died at New Jeju was inscribed. The wall stretched for miles, name after name, carved into black stone. Somin Choi, Dae Hyun Kim, millions of others. A young girl approached the wall, carrying flowers. It was Mina, the survivor who had lost her parents. She placed the flowers at the base of the wall and stood there, quietly. Minho knelt beside her. "Did you know someone who died here?" "My mom and dad," Mina said softly. "They put me on an evacuation ship, but they stayed to help others. They died when the planet burned. I am sorry. I tried to save them. I tried to get the council to help. I really time. I know. My mom told me about you. She said you did everything you could." Mina looked up at him with serious eyes. "Was it right? What we did to the Velkari?" Minho was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the question. It was the question that would haunt humanity for generations. They had won the war. They had avenged their dead, but they had also become something different in the process. Something harder. Something more willing to use violence. "We did what we had to do," he said finally. "Whether it was right, that is for history to judge. But I promise you this, Mina. Never again will humanity be helpless. Never again will we watch our people die while others do nothing. That is what your parents bought us with their lives. That is what 2.1 million people died for." He looked up at the stars, visible even during the day through the memorial's transparent dome. Up there, the Hammer Fleet patrolled humanity's expanded borders. Defense platforms orbited every human world. The shipyards continued building more vessels, because humanity had learned that peace without strength was just an invitation to slaughter. The galaxy had learned its lesson about humanity. The species that could smile and endure insults while secretly preparing for war was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The species that could show such patience and such fury was not to be trifled with. But humanity had learned a lesson too. They had learned that they could become monsters if they were not careful. They had learned that revenge, while satisfying, did not bring back the dead. They had learned that power came with responsibility, and the question now was what kind of power they would become. Earth was no longer isolated and weak. The age of pretense was over. Humanity's true face had been revealed to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. Whether that was a good thing or a terrible thing, only time would tell.